Hello, welcome to the Q&A for the 2024 San Francisco Independent Short Film Festival and the program Journeys in Documentary. We are fortunate to have some of the filmmakers here with us. Hey guys, hey filmmakers.
Hey,
Thanks for being here. Sarah, I'll start with you. Just could you introduce yourself, what your film is and what your role was in the film?
Sure. So my film is called 1001 Cuts, and it is a story about women. And it's really a story about women who, of my generation, who trained in surgery because I am a surgeon.
Yeah, right
And
on. Chances are people
when
have watched your film
we,
already. They've watched your film, so I just want to identify
yeah.
what
And
film you're
so
connected with. So you're 1001 Cuts. Daniela, what film are you associated with and what was your role?
Hi, I'm the star and co-produced The Cedars.
Got it. You're the main character. You are the artist. You're a multimedia artist.
I sure am.
Right on. Very cool. And Boris, how about you? What's your film and role?
yes, I'm Boris Tasarsky. I'm the director and editor of The Cedars, which stars Daniela Cruz.
Yeah. Well, since the camera's on you, Boris, how'd this film come to be? What was the inspiration or start of it?
So initially, I was in Dallas, Texas, to make a much longer film about gentrification through a friend of mine's life story, and he introduced me to Daniela. And long story short, Daniela and I ended up working together on a separate project because I became really fascinated in her artistic process. Daniela, and she can explain it even better, of course, but she essentially recovers garbage and other artifacts and sort of like repurposes it into art.
Yeah.
And that's how I became interested in making a film that sort of tracked Daniela and her process.
I can see why you would find it interesting. At least for me as an audience member, when I watched it, I was, fascinated uh, about Daniela, her process, her art making. Before I get to Daniela, Boris, what was that introduction all about by the friend? Was it just like, hey, meet my friend, or was it, here's Daniela, she's an interesting person, you need to make a
Yeah,
documentary?
good question. Daniela was actually going to be part of this other bigger project, but that project fell apart. And
Uh,
so what happened was, personally, I wanted to save some of the project because I had already done a bunch of filming, some of which was with Daniela. And so I decided, hey, Daniela, why don't we save some of what we've made and just focus on you and still hit on the themes that we wanted to hit on, but just do it through your lens, through your life, and that's how it evolved.
right on. Because I may have heard that you don't live in Dallas. This takes place in the Cedars is a place in Dallas, right?
Correct.
Okay. Daniela, talk about the initial meeting with Boris and the inspiration for the film and whatnot, how it all came to be.
Yeah, absolutely. So as Boris was mentioning, our mutual friend, Mike Soto, shout outs to him. He introduced us. We were talking about gentrification. Dallas, the Cedars is one of Dallas's oldest neighborhoods. And so there's like a really rich history. Mike grew up in East Dallas, and it's seen a lot of changes in gentrification over the last 5, 10 years, probably 15 at this point now. And so we were just interested in talking about that. Uh, my artistic process focuses a lot on space and place and how different objects, found objects, wood, rocks, rusted metal, glass, how they all kind of tell a story and are physical representations of time. And Dallas was has such a rich history. And so after the project with Mike didn't work out, we were all like, okay, well, what are we going to do with this footage? Let's have me kind of give a tour, because if you ever come to Dallas, Daniela from Dallas, where
Yeah.
I know a lot of history. I grew up here. I'm originally from Mexico City, but it's just really interesting. There's a lot of connections. Dallas was originally founded as the port city without a sea. And so there's a lot of commerce and trade and real estate, and
Yeah.
the Cedars is just fascinating. my landlord is reclaiming architect, and so there was a house that was cut in quarters and moved. It's literally one of the oldest functioning and well-preserved houses in the city. And so walking around the neighborhood, seeing all of the artifacts and the things that were left was a big inspiration. But there's also a lot of societal issues. This was during COVID when everything shut down. And there's also my my neighborhood sits between 3 different houseless shelters. And so there are a lot of unhoused individuals throughout the neighborhoods. And it's just interesting navigating what it was like when the city was shut down and there were very few people, but then there were these spaces and places.
Yeah. Yeah, Boris was right on and smart to follow you. You could also, be a tour guide for your local history too. You're very good at it.
Thank you.
What is your background? I mean, because your art is fascinating and your choice of medium is fascinating.
So I'm trained as a sculptor, always did found objects. However, I am now focused on like silversmithing, but I'm very thankful. Both of my parents studied art in Mexico in college and have bachelors of art. So they always fostered a lot of creativity and kind of exploration. And that's one thing I'm very thankful for. And during COVID, when everything was, we were all working from home, I had a stable work from home job, but also mildly losing my mind, and going outside and exploring the world as a way of like finding joy and a lot of kind of solitude and peace and wonder when the times are bleak.
Yeah, and during that period of COVID at its height, like Daniela and I were collaborating on the film. Like Daniela was doing all the tracking shots. We were kind of going back and forth about what to shoot, what questions to answer, because Daniela is also this voiceover in the film. And I just want to add, I very much always wanted to make like a kind of a road film. And this feels to me like kind of like a road picture, because it's largely shot in a car tracking through this sort of barren Dallas landscape. And so that was also like a guiding, like aesthetic kind of force behind it. Just tell a story through the images that we see every day out of a car.
Yeah, I love that. The opening of your movie basically it starts in a car, and then we turn the corner, and you start the journey. Maybe that's where our title "Journey" be started with your film. But I like that you didn't try and mask or hide. We're in a car, if you will. It kind of lends itself to the nature or the narrative of the documentary. Sarah, let's get some time to you. Where did this idea begin? And it was a worthwhile project, in my opinion, to showcase these special women, these astonishing women surgeons.
Thank you. So our project started also during the pandemic, and started because I had made the decision to stop practicing medicine. And I had an old friend, Richard Chisholm, who, I had known for a very long time. He was like, "Oh, Sarah, like your story is very good and you should make a film." And I am a type A personality. Otherwise I would not have become a surgeon. And so I was like, okay, how hard can this be? And so I started the process of making a film about surgeons who are women. And it turned into really a story about women of my generation who, are the first women in history, really in Western history, to have had the expectation that we would become educated.
Yeah.
And that was all made possible by the Title IX legislation that was enacted in the United States in 1972. And that had really massive social repercussions on the professional lives of everyone. And that was the legislation that allowed women to go to medical school, which I think a lot of people don't
It's crazy.
know.
It's crazy that it was that recent. I mean, it's just so incredible. So women weren't even allowed to go to medical school until just. But there were some historical women that kind of broke the barrier and got in, but it was not easy earlier than 1970s, right?
Right. So prior to 1970, there were quotas on women going to medical school, which was 8% of medical school classes. And then the Title IX legislation really was groundbreaking. And by 1980, 30% of medical school students were women, which was this dramatic shift, right, in who becomes a doctor. And so we wanted to tell this story through what was familiar to me, which is the operating room, which I think is sort of the last standing, very masculine space in medicine. And, you know, I hope we showcased like how brilliant some of these women are, and how hard they work to do their job and take care of patients. And that, you know, culture changes been slow in medicine, and so societal change has been ahead of what has happened in the medical profession. And you know, we'd like everyone to catch up, I
Yeah.
guess.
Do you think we are catching up? I mean, you know, I kind of know the answer, but how is it now at the moment in the surgery room for female surgeons?
So I think one of the things that's really powerful about this movie is that things have changed, but many things haven't changed. So we have reached sort of the first step in culture change where we have inclusion, right? You see women in the operating room as surgeons, but they're not necessarily, even though they're not considered really part of the profession, and they don't have the same advantages as men, and they don't have the same support. And that's a problem. And that means that we need to sort of change the way that we think about who is a surgeon,
Right.
what it means to be a surgeon, and how we support surgeons in the workplace.
That's probably, it's true. I can't say from, you know, white male perspective, but true of just in the workplace everywhere in the United States, as far as like women not being considered equals, and it takes legislation to go and give them the opportunity to be on equal footing. But then you still have, you know, the challenges that you have.
So I
Right?
think that's been one of the more powerful pieces of the film project, has been what women across professions have experienced and how they have viewed the film.
Mm-hmm. Uh, have you shown this film in other audiences yet, and female audiences, and what has the reaction been by audiences?
I mean, I think the reaction has been very positive overall. And what's been really like most gratifying to me is showing this film to both men and women who were like, I never realized that. I never thought about how the built environment is not made for women. I never thought about how the equipment's not made for women. I never thought about how these things impact everyday, like the everyday workplace
Yeah,
for women. And that has been, to me at least, the most powerful piece of this.
right on. Daniela, talk about women in the art field, if you will. Have you encountered any kind of similar things that we're talking about with Sarah, with her film and surgeons, female surgeons? Uh, you know, some of the challenges for female artists.
Yeah, it's really interesting to be a part of it and just see. I don't know, there are a lot of Dallas is a very progressive art city, and so there is a lot of inclusion. Um, I was formerly on the board of a women's art group, and so it's really great to see the opportunities. But I do think that it's still like overall kind of a boys' club, you know, and so it's
Yeah,
one of those things that you have to actively work against it and share these stories, right? And share one story, because I think that that's the nature and power of it. And um, I guess society as at large, the idea that there isn't an audience for this or people don't want to see this, but the reality is the undercurrents are applicable to both men and women, right? And everyone has a mother, a sister, an aunt, and it's really empowering to see communities come together and kind of be able to share these stories.
yeah. and it's wonderful to see the female voices rising up and being represented or being shown, especially in the film world too, right, Boris? I mean, it's another kind of boys' club, as Daniela said, and it's finally being inclusive with women, although not equal yet, but we're getting there.
Yeah, it's like a crawl. It just takes a while. But yeah, and yeah, I mean, just being able to work with Daniela and give her a platform to just tell her story and meditate on life and on art and on other subjects in the film is very gratifying for me. And as a filmmaker, I like to work with voices that aren't always aren't always heard or platformed, and so that's something that I like to focus on actually.
Yeah. Now,
Something.
when you made this film, a short film, as a filmmaker, your time is precious. Did you ever worry, like, is this going to be worth my time? You know what I mean? Like, do I just go commercial, or that balance? Danielle can get this, and I'm sure Sarah can relate to how to use your time wisely. What do you choose to work on?
Yeah. Always. I mean, there's always that that inner self doubt. Like, is this worth it? Why am I doing this? Is this gonna? When it comes to short films, there isn't a whole lot of money to be made with them. I have found. So it's really about, like, you're doing it because you really love the art form, and it's something that just brings you joy, and yeah, I mean, money still goes into it, of course, but ultimately it's about this. It's about, like, getting other people to engage with Daniela, with Sarah's story, and
These are
that's the
stories.
reward.
Yeah, and there's stories that should be told that will find an audience, but it just might not be a feature film, commercial film.
Yeah, exactly.
I just want to add to that. I think that like at least for me, I worked for 15 years within the system to try to make space for women. And I think I was unsuccessful for working within the system, and film has provided this very beautiful way to showcase the stories of these very powerful people that are otherwise sort of dismissed. And so I think that's just been a really nice space for me to be in, because this is new to me and I've been learning as I've been going, and I'm very grateful for that.
Yeah, we're grateful you made this film and you shared it with us. I agree with that 100%. You'll find, more people hearing your message or story because of this medium, right?
And I will say,
Absolutely.
just to answer a different aspect of your question, it might be a short film, but often these take a lot of love, a lot of passion, and actually a long time, over the course of years. And I will definitely say that there were times where I was just so over it. I was like, oh my gosh. I think especially when it was voiceover time, right? It's like
Mm.
going through a lot of,
You're like, we're
hard or
not done yet?
challenging, dark
Yeah.
things. I was so ready to put it down, but I'm so thankful to Boris for being so
Thank
kind,
you.
so patient.
Well,
And,
obviously, he must have been okay to work with too, where you didn't just say, I'm done, and ghosted him or left, right?
yeah, no, it was a wonderful, and as Sarah mentioned, it's a learning process, because the film, I relied incredibly on Boris and his direction, and we're just really thankful to collaborate with him and learn a new facet, right? In art, or the saying is that the medium is how you get the message out, but there's many different art forms, right? Or how you want to express it. And so it's been really incredible to be part of film. So thank you.
Yeah,
Thank
yeah.
you.
And Sarah, how about you? Like, what was a challenge? How long did it take? Were you like, oh my God, filmmaking is so slow, and uh, when does it ever end?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think so. We worked on this film for about 3.5 years. And um, I think like we had so many challenges, even just from like stock footage that doesn't include women,
Yeah.
to finding, the right way to tell the story without making anyone a victim, which was very, very important to us, or at least to me, and finding the right collaborators. And I think this is like what has been so beautiful to me about working in film is that one person cannot make a film by themselves. It has to be a team and it has to
Yeah.
be a collaboration.
Yeah.
And I'm very
Yes, it's a collaborative process for sure. Absolutely. And who you choose to work with is crucial as well. What was maybe a highlight or a moment of joy for you, Sarah, making this project? Like just finishing, hey, finish line, look at it, we did a good job.
uh, Yeah, absolutely. I mean, finishing felt so important to me because there are, 10 people that appear in the film, but there were dozens of people who spoke to me in the making of the film, and making sure that every person's perspective was included in some way was just incredibly important. And it, yeah, I just feel so glad that when people watch the film, they feel that sort of perspective, that it's not just one voice, but it's like many people's voices that make the film powerful.
Do you think you achieved what you set out to portray, Sarah? Did you realize your initial?
I hope so.
Well,
I,
um,
I, I mean, I think we had a low bar. I think the goal was to have a film that created a conversation. And so for that, I think we have been successful, because I think it has opened people's minds to challenges that are not the normal challenges that people think of that women face in the workplace.
yeah, Daniela, how about you? A highlight, a moment of joy? Was there any?
Yes, no, absolutely. I think honestly having the time to be present within the filmmaking process, right? We having an iPhone and having a video camera just anytime you're around, being able to capture these moments of joy or incredible sunsets, and being present. I think that that's one of the biggest things that I enjoyed from the filmmaking process, was being present in order to find these locations and
You know what
record
else
them.
is cool? I mean, we know this, but I just thought of too, like the moment in time you two have captured forever, which is kind of great. You've preserved this,
Yeah,
both of yourselves and your artwork and of Dallas's neighborhood, right?
yeah.
That's a great little thing about it. Boris, what's a takeaway highlight for you?
Uh, I mean, yeah, everything Daniela just mentioned, just like being present, being enthusiastic, but like finishing it and then ultimately getting accepted to our first film festival, a little over a year ago, a festival in Spain, which sort of focuses on experimental films, and they did a write up of the film, and that moment was really special because our film, like we liked our film, our friends liked our film, but when you get other eyes and other people enthusiastic about it who you don't know, like that's a level of validation that makes you feel like maybe we have something here that can reach not just our immediate circle but actually touch people in different places.
Yeah, well put. Yeah, if you mean the first audience is yourself, right, as a filmmaker, and then if you're happy with it, good, and then if you reach even one other person, you've succeeded, in my opinion.
Agreed.
Yeah. And so, what's next for you, Boris? What are you gonna do next?
Well, for the last 2 years, I've been working on a new documentary about polyamory, which is a kind of a pretty controversial and hot topic right now. But I've been tracking different polyamorous couples around the country, and trying to weave together this tapestry of stories about how people live sort of in alternative lifestyle choices, which really questions a lot of the stories that we've been told growing up about
Yeah.
monogamy, essentially.
Well, keep
So,
us in mind when you finish that one, and maybe
yes.
you might want to consider San Francisco for some subject matter.
Yeah.
Well, one of our subjects is based in Berkeley, so we're right
There you
there
go.
also, folks. So yeah.
Right on. Sarah, how
Thank you.
about you? Are you going to convert over to full-time filmmaker?
I don't know that I can do that, but I'm so excited to continue the process with this film and see where it goes and continue to support women and tell stories about women. I think it's just really been very meaningful to me.
Indeed. And Daniela, what's next in your horizon?
Yeah, so right now I'm in the process of kind of putting a lot of research development and the percolation of thoughts over the last, I would say, I don't know, 4 or 5 years together. I have an open studio at the end of November, and so getting ready for that to showcase some work, some jewelry, and just see what comes of it.
Yeah.
Maybe start applying to the. I've been very socially or I've excluded myself. I've been very internal, very working through things, and so I feel like I'm ready to kind of share some stuff. So excited
Cool.
about that.
Yeah, here's a moment of self-promotion. Do you have a website or something you want to tell people about to check out your work?
I do. It's DanielaCruzStudio.com. It's currently has older work, hasn't been up to date, but that is where you can find me.
Well, hey guys, congratulations on completing your film. Thanks for making them, submitting to our film festival. They're lovely little films that everybody should check out. Well done.
Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much, Jason.
Yeah,
Nice
I hope
meeting
to
you,
meet you
Sarah.
in person someday.
Yeah,
All right,
same.
thank you everybody for watching. Thank you for supporting independent movies. Check out more great indie film at sfindie.com. So long, everybody. Thanks for watching.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.
And now find the stop button.